Chapter 181 A Fight to the Death and Rainbow Moths. Humph. In your dreams. You aren't using your brain to think about it. Us two Marshall brothers were lucky enough to be transported together. We are already really lucky. At the very least, our chances of survival are much greater. Being able to get rid of this man was just luck. Do you believe I am patient enough to play the game of idly waiting for prey? Don't be scared of meeting ferocious men and have our teeth throb. Are we not already playing with our lives by entering this place? Besides, how could there be anyone in this damnable place? We should go to the center area as soon as possible and take advantage of the danger. This is the best plan. The older Spirit Mountain disciple was clearly the stronger of the two. He was also much more clever. While he was lecturing him, he was also vigilantly sweeping his eyes over the deep forest in every direction. Having seen this, Han Li grew even more careful and used his chi restraining technique to its utmost. He also held his breath, not daring to expose himself in the slightest. As for the stupid thought of taking them on by himself, Han Li didn't even think of it. There was no way he would do something so dumb. One of the two had magic power at the beginning of the 12th layer. The other was at the higher step of the 12th layer. If they were to join hands, he wouldn't just have little chance of success, he simply wouldn't be able to resist their great strength. Thus, Han Li could only stare blankly as the two gathered the very last of the cold smoke grass and set fire to the corpse of the heavenly Imperial Fortress disciple. Lastly, the two men stored the cold ice toads into a red-colored storage bag and then disappeared to the other side of the dense forest. Just after the two departed, Han Li did not immediately walk out. Only after he waited for a moment did he reveal himself from the foliage. After he stood, he looked thoughtfully in the direction of the two people. It seemed it was more or less like he had thought, there were many like-minded people here. It was no wonder, since these were people who took the risk to participate in the trial by blood and fire. How many of them wouldn't think to go the center for those spiritual items of heaven and earth? It would be difficult to avoid battle. After all, spiritual items that reached maturity were truly limited. There were fundamentally not enough for each sect. Han Li's face darkened. He bitterly thought this while standing in place for a while. He had witnessed with his own eyes as the blue-clothed person, who was just as careful as himself, silently disappeared from this world. It was unknown how many similar events occurred throughout the forbidden area. This caused Han Li's confidence in fulfilling his objective to sway by no small amount. He truly did not know whether or not it was a good idea to go on this trip to the forbidden area. Perhaps if he had taken those 2 Foundation Establishment pills, he might have been able to reach Foundation Establishment and fundamentally not need brave this strange danger. Han Li felt discouraged and had a faint notion of retreating. After all, while continuing was easy to say, one's thoughts would be in turmoil with the shadow of death looming in their mind. After several hours, Han Li left the vicinity and advanced toward the center of the forbidden area. After a moment of contemplation, Han Li's reason won over. He knew that those recent thoughts of carefulness were only his own weakness looking for an excuse. Thus, he strengthened his mind and resumed walking on the path. Han Li did not follow behind the two and instead took a detour, indirectly advancing even though the two from Spirit Beast Mountain took the closest and fastest route. Han Li wasn't being paranoid. With his abilities, the opponents would be able to find him. In addition, he was also fearful of Spirit Beast Mountain's exceptional beast controlling method. He did not know whether the opponent had any unusual methods of discovering a pursuer, but it would be best to maintain his distance. It should be known that he originally used the small cloud-winged bird, which had minor human intelligence, to track and monitor specific individuals from a long distance. It could be assumed that Spirit Beast Mountain also had a similar controlling method. Their methods were certain to be even more crafty and covert. After all, they were cultivators. How could the methods of Jianghu possibly compare? With regards to the cloud-winged bird, Han Li felt a bit of regret. When he entered Yellow Maple Valley, in order to prevent arousing attention, he released the bird into the Taiyue mountain range, allowing it to freely move about. As a result, the bird frequently returned to look for its master, Han Li, for its favorite food, the yellow chestnut pill. However, after a long period of time, it gradually returned fewer and fewer times. By the time Han Li realized his mistake, the bird had already become wild and had actually flown to some faraway land, never to be seen again. This caused Han Li much heartache, as it would have been of much use on this journey within the forbidden area. What Han Li did not know was that his decision to take a roundabout route truly allowed him to escape calamity. After the two disciples from Spirit Beast Mountain left the Black Dragon Pond, each of them released rainbow moths over a large area. These beautiful flying insects immediately scattered in every direction, densely spreading over an area of about 300 meters. The color of their bodies then gradually changed, slowly matching with its surroundings. The colors of their body blended in so well that they could not be easily seen without a careful examination. Furthermore, even if a few careful people discovered these moths, they would most likely believe them to be native to the forbidden area and not suspect them. Thus, these colorful moths became natural sentries for the two. So long as someone entered their range of awareness, they would immediately alert the two and allow them to plan a response in advance. These numerous insects formed a living alarm network. As alarms, they could be said to be flawless, an expert trick known to Spirit Beast Mountain disciples. Although disciples of their own sect would know of this beforehand, they would have no method of passing through the moths and mounting a sneak attack against the two. Actually, with regards to Han Li's decision at Black Dragon Pond, it could be considered a great fortune. Those two from Spirit Beast Mountain did not yet release the rainbow moths at the pond and only released them after leaving. Otherwise, Han Li would not have escaped their notice. This wasn't a matter of negligence or forgetfulness. The moths were naturally fearful of the cold. If the temperature was a bit too low, they would freeze and die one by one. It would be truly regretful for the two. This Black Dragon Pond's water was of a strange nature and possessed an incomparable coldness. All the land nearby the pool transformed into a winter-like terrain. Under these circumstances, how could they dare to release their rainbow moths, only to see them die? Han Li wasn't aware in the least that his actions had prevented calamity. He was currently standing below a strange cliff, speechlessly looking at two wretched corpses by his feet. One of the corpses wore black skin-tight clothes and had a tall and bulky stature with large palms. There was a thin dark red line of blood across his neck. The eyes were still open with an expression of unwillingness. It seemed he died discontentedly. The body appeared to be that of a giant sword sect disciple. As for the other body, it was of medium stature and was badly mutilated. What was most significant was its face was not intact. There was a huge sword that was thrusted all the way through his head. He had been impaled to the floor with it while he was still alive, causing bits of brain and blood to flow on the ground. However, a strange transparent thread was coiled around the ring finger of his right hand. Underneath the sunlight, he saw a faint flicker. Han Li carefully studied the corpse of the giant sword sect disciple for a very long time. Then he suddenly lifted the corpse by the tip of its feet and looked toward the red line at the neck, giving the head a light kick. As a result, the large head immediately rolled to the side. He did not need to use much strength. This person had long been split in two. Han Li sighed and looked toward the other corpse. Although he didn't have a face, Han Li already knew his identity since the corpse wore yellow robes similar to his own. There couldn't be stronger proof. However, he did not know which of his Yellow Maple Valley martial brothers the corpse belonged to. He clearly understood that these two died killing each other. Han Li lifted his head and looked toward the cliff peak without moving. He had already reached a final conclusion. In his mind, he imagined most of what took place between the two. From all the marks, the giant sword sect disciple should have exceeded the power of Han Li's senior martial brother by an entire layer. The corpse of the yellow-clothed disciple was badly mutilated and was riddled with injuries. The unreconciled expression on the black-clothed person's head clearly explained this matter. Although the senior martial brother from his sect was in a disadvantageous position, it was clear this person loved scheming. The only magic tool he used was actually that transparent thread. He definitely made use of his enemy's careless attitude as he was about to win. At the very last moment, he used this item to launch a sneak attack, severing his opponent's head and killing the giant sword sect disciple. However, he clearly didn't expect that the black-clothed man had enough strength left to launch his sword before he died. It was unknown whether the Yellow Maple Valley disciple was either too wounded to avoid the strike or if he had made a mistake on the verge of victory, but in the end he was impaled, resulting in a battle without a victor.